The Sarah Boone suitcase murder trial has begun. Opening statements for the state and defense reveal the gruesome details of Jorge Torres' death. Sarah's neighbors, police officers, and a forensic biologist testify. This lady is a psycho. She's on her 8th lawyer, I think. She zipped up her boyfriend in a suitcase drunkenly, filmed it, and fell asleep, and he suffocated inside of it. And her defense lawyers claim that this was her protecting herself because they have a past of, abuse. Pretty intense stuff. Hit subscribe. Here we go, boys. First look at Sarah Boone, crazy ass. What delusion that she actually thinks she's gonna be able to get away with this. Imagine being offered a plea deal where you only have to serve like another 6 years and you deny it. And now you might get sentenced 22 years instead. All right, here's state's opening statements.
And then she went up to sleep and left him to take his final breaths on this earth alone. How many breaths those were, we don't know. The evidence is going to show that it was at least for about 15 minutes because there's going to be 2 videos that the defendant herself took of this event. Evidence is going to show George Torres is dead because in this defendant's judgment, from a video that began at 11:12 p.m., 45 seconds, on February 23rd, 2020, in Orange County, Florida, is a suitcase on the ground face down with the zippers facing the floor. You will hear Sarah, the defendant will say, "For everything you've done to me." Sarah, "For everything you've done to me." Sarah, "Fuck you." And then the defendant laughs. Sarah, "Fuck you."
So he's begging for his life in a suitcase while his drunk girlfriend is slurring, "For everything you've done for me." She goes upstairs and falls asleep, and this guy dies and suffocates in a suitcase.
And the defendant laughs. Sarah, "Stupid." Sarah, "That's my name. Don't wear it out." Sarah, "I can't fucking breathe, baby. Seriously." "Yeah, that's what you do when you choke me." Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. The defendant laughs again. Sarah, "I can't breathe, babe." She laughs again. "That's on you." Sarah, "I can't breathe." She laughs again. Unintelligible words. And I would submit the evidence is going to show because of the intoxication from alcohol, is the next thing she says. Sarah, 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 "I can't breathe, baby. That's what I feel like when you cheat on me." Sarah, "Fuck you. I can't fucking breathe, Sarah. You should probably shut the fuck up." Sarah, "Shh," is the last thing you will hear the defendant say to Mr. Torres as he is face down, zipped shut, in a suitcase. Again, began at 11:12:45 and lasts just over 2 minutes. At 11:23 and 3 seconds p.m., there's a second 22-second video, and it's the defendant zooming in on the suitcase. And all you hear during this 22 seconds, after he's been in this suitcase since at least 11:12 p.m., is one more time, Sarah.
I mean, she filmed it and didn't know she filmed it because the police had to show it to her the next day. That's how drunk she was. Why'd the audio cut out again?
You will not hear sorrow. You will hear a certain level of concern. My boyfriend and I were playing last night. Put him in a suitcase, and we were playing hide-and-seek kind of thing. I fell asleep. Found him dead in the suitcase this morning. I don't know what happened. He had blood coming out of his mouth. Don't know if it was an aneurysm. Pulled him out of the suitcase. Tried to give him CPR. He was in the suitcase, and I fell asleep. He's not awake. He's purple. He's not breathing. There's some instructions about how to do CPR given to her, asking about whether an AED is available to shock his heart. It's too late. He's cold. He's stiff. He's purple. We were playing hide-and-seek. We were playing hide-and-seek. This is horrible. This is horrific what happened. Like, what happened? We were playing hide-and-seek last night, and I fell asleep.
We didn't think of giving them lav mics. What a shit show with the audio, man.
The basics of what the defendant tells them is we had wine, we painted, we drew, we did puzzles. The particular wine we had was a Chardonnay from the Woodbridge winery. The bottles, plural, are in the trash. We started about 4 p.m. after Mr. Torres went to the store. Puzzles, art, listening to music, enjoying each other's company. We were literally just enjoying one another's company. The other bottle of wine that was left over from Boone wasn't even half full, so the description she is saying is 1 bottle of wine and plus a fraction of a bottle of wine left over from the night before. Ladies and gentlemen, not all bottles of wine are made the same. Of wine that were recovered from the defendant's trash can were 1.5 liters, so the equivalent of 2 standard bottles of wine. A 1.5 liter bottle of wine is 50 ounces. There is a receipt from Publix for a bottle of Woodbridge wine for $9.74. And then Sunday at 12:17 p.m., there is another receipt for $9.74 for a Woodbridge Chardonnay bottle of wine. And then at about 5:30 in the afternoon on February 23rd, again, there is another receipt for the same bottle of wine for the same price. And those 2 bottles of wine were recovered. They're going to be produced to you in evidence, and you will see that they are, in fact, Magnum bottles of wine. That's the context that we're dealing with when we hear things like, we only had 1 bottle of wine, and we finished what was left in the bottle of wine from before. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's 2 1.5 liters that apparently were consumed by a 103-pound man and the defendant, who is in the same weight class. If you believe that the defendant and the decedent would leave leftover wine from any given day, any additional wine that was remaining from the 1.5 liters from Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot of wine. So in that context, we were just having wine, enjoying each other's company. At one point we play hide and seek. She says she didn't zip it up all the way.
The hide and seek thing is a lie. 1000%. They were arguing and she somehow got this fucker inside a suitcase. That's what I think happened.
We were still having a good time and whatever. And basically, Mr. Torres is stressing out about jobs, his ex-wife, about money. And so they're just doing puzzles and doing things to keep his mind off of it. Playing with dogs, dancing with the dogs, playing hide and seek. We were always trying to outdo each other where we could find each other the best. When they started playing hide and seek, She went up to the shower and then got tired of hanging out in the shower and came down, and that's when she found him playing around with the suitcase. We both thought it was funny. I'm going to zip you up. 2 little fingers could stick out. And she went upstairs thinking, he'll get out, we're going to have sex and go to sleep and call it a day. It was a good day. She insists that they had wine, but we're not drunk. You will be able to assess that for yourselves when you hear the recording she made. No ill will between us last night. Last argument, maybe last week. Don't really argue. We came home, drink, smoke, did art, listen to music, play with the dogs. We drink what we can afford. We used to be able to afford liquor, but now we can only afford wine. And that's how that day ends with the police. She goes and stays at her ex-husband's house the night of February 24th. But she's summoned in for another interview, and she sits down and gives another interview on February 25th, now Tuesday. She does describe past instances of violence. You're going to hear about that. She's going to say Mr. Torres had hit her with a curtain rod about a month ago. Since then, though, like, we've been good. I've been good. She describes that he comes at her all the time. He comes at me. So it's either I flee or I try to go upstairs and go to sleep. That's usually what it is. I don't know if you talk to Brian, her husband, about any of that, but most of the time I flee and I go over there. There's a discussion about why she stays with him, and you'll hear that for yourself. She will say that she doesn't really want to drink. She just takes an occasional drink. She drinks to placate him, Mr. Torres. She says that you're going to see phone videos of Mr. Torres smashing her TV in the past, like a month earlier. Then she gets to the hide and seek again and describes that they've played it 3 times before, but had never zipped one another shut in it before. And they were really just running out of places to hide because it's just a townhome.
Such a lie.
She does not remember taking any photos or videos of the night's events. At this point, they ask her, well, would you like to see it? And she says, I can't watch this. I flipped them over, and that's where it was. Guys, this is killing me right now. That's why I flipped it over between the 2 videos. I didn't do anything intentional. Discussion over whether he had enough room to get any of his fingers out from the zipper. My intention was not to leave him there. We both got in there. Both of us were in there. When she went upstairs, my plan was not to, quote, he'll be up here any minute. My plan wasn't to leave him in the suitcase. Why is all this going on? It's the drinking. That's what it is. It's the drinking. I thought he was okay. Guys, that's how we were with each other. Nobody understands our relationship. This whole suitcase thing never happened before, though she described it happened before. I'll never drink alcohol again. She insists that she has no injuries on her. And you don't have to take her word for it, because they took photographs of her, and there were no injuries on her. She insists over and over that there was no violence that day. It's like, okay, we're in a good place right now. Ask her about saying fuck you to Mr. Torres. Well, that's just being playful and having a good day. Everybody's having a good day.
Him being in the suitcase, saying Sarah, and she says fuck you. That's having a good day.
I didn't touch him, nor did he touch me. There's a conversation between Mr. Torres' brother. Nobody knows who's using these phones at the time text messages are sent in these records that you're going to see. But it's indicated that there's a communication between one of the decedent's brothers and the owner of the phone that was taken that belongs to Miss Boone. The text from the brother is, yo, my daughter told me what you did, Sarah. I don't want you around any of my daughters or nieces, nephews. And that's Christmas 2019, just under 2 months before this event. She replies, or the person using her device at this time, ugh, your quote-unquote dad hit me in the face. The next text is, hide and seek. I shall. He describes it on January 13th in a text to Mo, the brother again. It's a Torres thing. Boo. Sends a picture. Keep the fugly creep out too. It's still fugly. The brother responds, please do something with yourself, Sarah. God bless you. The defendant's response, and bless you and all of you too. I'll get, in all capitals, rid of him. Then it'll be, in all capitals, better. Ugh. Torres. Referring to Mr. Torres. Getting rid of.
Torres abused her. You're going to hear about that, but that doesn't change the fact that she stuck him in a suitcase and killed him. All right, defense opening statements, but we aren't going to be able to hear this old fart. He's nowhere near a microphone. I'm pissed. We actually can't hear it. This is just insane.
It used to be called alcoholism. Now it's called alcohol abuse syndrome. And so day to day, they struggle with the use of alcohol. You can imagine it. It affected their jobs. It affected keeping employment. It affected even getting a job. With all that was domestic violence. And that George Torres physically abused Sarah Boone. And she suffered from the effects, the psychological effects that one suffers from repeat violence from an intimate partner. They were together over 3 years, and there were several prior incidences of violence. We've got the photographs. There were incidences where police were called who took photographs. So you're going to be able to see the evidence. And we believe the court will instruct you at the end when you're considering self-defense, which we call justifiable use of non-deadly force or justifiable use of deadly force, that you can consider. And considering her set of circumstances that she was faced with in making the decision to use reasonable force under the circumstances. And the most important thing I can tell you here today is keep an open mind. There's 2 sides to every story. You're going to hear the state's side in attempting to paint her a certain way, as they've done here today in opening statement. And then you're going to hear another side, and you're going to have to weigh that, all the evidence, the credibility of the witnesses, the photographs, the videotapes, and come to a conclusion. At some point, you're going to see a video from Publix, from where they live. I believe it's Winter Park. But Publix was not too far from their apartment complex. They took their car, they drove over there. So you're going to see a videotape from Publix of them both going in the store about noon, and they come out with one of these larger bottles of the wine. And then, of course, there's a receipt, and the bottles are in the garbage can. There obviously is an attraction between the two. And as everybody knows, couples can have great times where things click, everybody gets along, and then we can have episodes of disagreement. But when his level of intoxication gets to a certain level is when he gets sad, moody, and a lot of times eventually it involved forcible sex with Sarah Boone. or actual physical violence against them.
What? This couple was fucked. This is her like 8th or 9th lawyer, by the way. Like, this lady's been a disaster for lawyers. She goes through them like crazy because she's a psycho. And at one point she was supposed to be her own lawyer, but then she freaked out and was like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. She wrote a 50-page letter to the judge at one point asking her to be treated fairly. She also put up like basically an advertisement, please come be my lawyer. I need a good lawyer who wants to fight with me.
As some people do when they're drunk, they get silly and they decide to play a game of hide and seek. She goes upstairs, their bedroom's upstairs, to the shower and waits for a period of time. And he doesn't come to her. At some point she gets cold, she gets tired, she wants to go see, well maybe we got it mixed up. Where is he? So she goes downstairs, and they had gotten a suitcase down a week or so ago. It was an old suitcase that they were going to donate to Helping Hands or Goodwill or somebody, and they were putting some items in there. And it's a broken down suitcase, it's a large suitcase. Well, she comes down the steps, she sees him getting in and settling in the suitcase. So she walks over there, and they see each other, they smile and laugh, and she zips him up. And she zips him up, and they laugh for a while. They carry on, she sits on the couch, and at some point he says, I can't breathe. Now, his face is facing the zipper, and she's got 2 or 3 inches that she's opened it. And she doesn't know, you're intoxicated, she doesn't know whether he's just saying that to try to get her to get him out or what. Physically, they're the same size, but he's much stronger than her. If they got in a fist fight, he would win 100 times out of 100. But she's got him down, he claims he can't get up. He has to sit and listen. It's a unique form of physical restraint. And so she lets him have it. Says things she shouldn't say. You'll see the video, it's about 2 minutes long. She videotapes it. She sits on the couch and turns her phone on and videotapes it for about 2 minutes. There's another video that's approximately 11 minutes later. The first video, George's, the suitcase is flipped upside down. The zipper's put on. 11 minutes later, Sarah has flipped it right side up. Again, open for him to get out. And it's only 22 seconds. And you hear George say, Sarah, and that's it. Now, the key to the case is that 11 minutes and what happened during that 11 minutes. Okay? That is the key to this case. Sarah Boone will take the stand. She will explain what happened. She will explain why it happened. The evidence will show that she was justified in the action she took to prevent an attack from George Torres.
He's basically trying to say this was her protecting herself and shit. The jury ain't gonna believe that.
Every one of us has a right to invoke the right of self-defense. Now, you're gonna find that Sarah's not perfect. As many of us do when we drink too much, and you sleep in. She slept in. 11, 12, 1, somewhere around there. She moseys downstairs looking for George. She thought he was on the computer looking for a job. She looked outside, maybe he's out smoking a cigarette, and she sees the suitcase. She unzips it, she gets him out, he's purple. She tries her best to do some CPR. She freaks out. The only family she's got is her ex-husband. She relies on him. As the prosecutor said, a lot of times she'll flee to her ex-husband's house where her son is at. The only thing she knows to do. She's kind of a sheltered daughter when she was younger. She's smart, but she's not worldly. And she calls him again within a couple of minutes. Yeah, I'm on the way. He gets there. He walks in the foyer and sees his leg. Does he call 911? She calls 911 within a minute or two. But the most important thing is not to rush the judgment, to keep an open mind. And understand there's 2 sides. There's their side and there's us. So you can't form any fixed opinions. That's hard to do. Battered women's experiences affect her perception of imminent danger. Battered women's experiences affect her perception of imminent danger. Victims of repeat violence may fear death in a situation others would not. After hearing both sides of this case, we're confident you're going to have a reasonable doubt. We're going to ask you to follow the law and do justice in this case. And find Sarah Boone not guilty because it's the right thing to do.
All right. So this is the younger brother of the victim.
Who was George living with at the time that he passed away?
Wait, Sarah?
Back on February 23rd, 2020, did you have an occasion to talk to your brother on that day?
Yes, sir.
And when you spoke with your brother on that day, did you FaceTime with him or did you speak with him over the phone?
We talked on the phone.
Was that phone to your ear or was that phone?
It was on speaker.
And who was present?
My wife and my 2 kids.
And without telling us anything that George may have said to you, can you tell us what the topic of that conversation was?
We were just talking like we normally did. He just calling me to check on me.
In the background of that conversation on the evening of February 23rd, 2020, what did you hear?
Sarah's in the background yelling.
And you recognized her voice?
Yes, sir.
What was she yelling about?
Something about choking or how he choked her. I really don't. That was it.
About how long was this conversation that you had?
10 minutes, I think it was.
How did the conversation end?
Because she was yelling in the background, so that was it.
Did she sound upset?
She sounded upset.
Did you talk to your brother after that conversation?
No, that was the last conversation I had.
Have you ever spoken to Sarah since that conversation?
No.
Could you tell at that time if he had been consuming alcohol?
No, because I knew when he would drink.
Okay. So, in your opinion at that time, based on what you heard and what he was talking about, you do not believe he had been drinking alcohol? You said you heard Sarah.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? How did you know it was Sarah?
I can tell her voice.
You recognized her voice. So you could hear her. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you've heard Sarah speak before that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've heard her speak on the phone before that time. Is that correct? And you said that Sarah was yelling. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
And she was yelling about, he's choking me. Or tell him about choking me.
Yes.
Okay. During that conversation, and you heard her say that, did you ask your brother, what is she talking about?
No, I did not.
Did that statement at that time, did that statement surprise you?
Not really.
I am the assistant store manager.
Must work at some Publix.
These are Publix receipts. This is CCTV footage burned from the camera system at the location.
Publix guy's just here for when they bought the wine, I guess. That got him drunk that night. This lady took the 911 call.
I answer phones for emergency, non-emergency, medical, which are transferred to the medical.
To record 911 calls.
All lines are recorded.
And is it the regular practice of Orange County to keep records of each of those 911 calls?
Yes.
And those records are made at or near the time of each call, correct?
Yes.
Were you neighbors with Sarah Boone and George Torres?
Yes.
And approximately how long were you neighbors with them?
About a year.
During the course of that year that you were neighbors with them, did you have occasion to interact with them at times?
Yeah.
In fact, did you ever go over to their home?
Yeah. Like a couple times, yeah.
And I believe you tuned a guitar for a child there at the house?
Yeah.
This Tealwood apartment complex, how would you describe the walls that separated your units?
Thin. Like very thin walls.
With those walls being so thin, would you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling coming from Sarah Boone and George Torres' apartment?
Yeah.
How often would you hear this?
Almost daily.
I mean, fighting daily. Come on, bro.
Did Sarah Boone ever approach you about the things that you heard coming from their apartment?
Yes. I was smoking a cigarette on my back patio. Pretty much just kind of like, if I do hear anything, like through the walls or whatever, just out back, just kind of keep my mouth shut, like don't really speak about it or anything like that or say anything to anyone. And I just was like...
That's strange, right?
Yeah, like just kind of like, you know, finger over the lips, like kind of shh, like keep it hush, like that kind of thing.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
I do, yeah.
What about that evening sticks out?
That sticks out to me from that night was literally just the loud, there was a very, very loud noise that I heard that was loud and powerful enough to shake my bedroom wall. I remember that because I was sitting on my bed on FaceTime with my girlfriend at the time, and I literally felt the wall shake and stopped me mid-conversation, and she even asked me through the computer, like, what was that? And I was like, I have no idea.
Did you hear any yelling coming from their apartment on that night?
Before that, yeah, like it was just arguing kind of stuff.
What was the last thing you heard?
The last thing I heard was like the loud noise and just a little bit of shuffling, and that was kind of it. It just kind of went silent after that.
Could you hear anything that was being said?
Not clearly, and it was never really anything clear. It was just like you could hear arguing back and forth, just kind of like paid attention too much to it. If I heard it, I kind of stepped into my living room to be further away from it.
Did you hear both the defendant's voice and also George Torres' voice?
Yeah, all the time. It was like a back and forth. It was like a very odd sounding noise that I've never heard before this day, but it very much sounded like it was where my bed was positioned. It was kind of towards the back of the apartment, and it almost sounded like it was coming towards me, but like on the side of me, you know. Then it was just like a loud rumbling noise, like that literally sounded like it was kind of far away from me, and then it like ended up like almost next to me. And like I said, the walls are thin, so like it's very easy to hear like through the walls, and not even just sideways. Like I hear my upstairs neighbor, like all around, very thin walls.
So they clearly weren't playing hide and seek. He could hear them arguing. They weren't playing hide and seek. That's a lie.
It was pretty intense around 10:30.
Yeah.
Approximately what time was it that you heard this loud crashing thump sound that you described?
Little after that.
Would you hear arguments or disagreements going on over there?
When I first moved in, it was it was at least like once a week, to the point that I started tuning them out. Like I got good enough at just like not listening to them. They argued very, very often.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, could you hear arguing going on in their unit?
Not late into the evening, earlier into the evening, probably like 7, 8 o'clock that evening, probably. Like earlier on, I could hear arguing.
And where were you inside of your apartment?
I would have been in my bedroom pretty much all night. The way their staircase was set up, I could, my bedroom, the top of their staircase would have been like above my ceiling, and then it ends next to where like my roommate's apartment was. So I could hear something start above me super loud and then fall away from me.
Was he in the suitcase already and she rolled him down the stairs in the suitcase? Is that what they're describing here? Because that's fucking insane.
Like it was falling down the stairs.
Did this affect the walls that were between your two apartments?
Oh yeah, me and my roommate, I remember me and my roommate talking the next day about like we could literally, like it shook both of our rooms. I never saw her after that. She would have, I never saw her after that happened.
Sir, you were asked by the state if you ever had any interactions with Sarah Boone or George Torres. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I think you said you tried to avoid them.
I don't like drunk people, and they were drunk a lot, so I did not interact with them.
This guy's very blunt. Like, I avoided them and I hate drunk people.
In 2009, when you woke up and witnessed Sarah...
I would have been 9 years old in 2009.
I'm sorry, 2019. Good catch. In 2019, when you woke up and witnessed Sarah sleeping on the concrete patio.
Oh, this may have been a slight misconception in how I said this. I never woke up and saw her sitting on the patio myself. That I would have seen her on the patio eventually, but it's not like I woke up and went back and saw her on the patio. This was my roommate relaying the story that she had fallen asleep on the back patio, and then I saw her. I had gotten locked out of my apartment, so I was waiting on the steps waiting on the steps outside of my apartment for my roommate to get home. So she came up and started talking to me. I don't really remember too many details of what she was saying.
Do you remember saying that you believe Sarah was avoiding going into her apartment?
That's definitely the vibe. I don't remember what she was saying, but the vibe she was giving off was that she didn't want to go home.
So far, her neighbors aren't really helping her little hide and seek situation. God, this lady is crazy. You can just tell in those eyes. Look at those dead eyes. So this is Sarah's ex-husband who came to the scene. They share a child together. He came there because she called him, obviously, before calling 911. Who does that when you're actually worried about someone?
Somewhat, but she woke me up. I had work the next day. I was asleep when she called. She's done this before, calling me late at night, and generally I kind of just try to ignore it, so I wasn't really paying attention.
Everyone just want to ignore these people because they're drunk.
It was like 12:30 or something. That George was dead, and if I would come over. I don't remember if she told me then on the phone or when I got there, but she told me they had been playing hide and seek and that she fell asleep. I told her she needed to call 911 and that I would come over as soon as I could.
This is on your first phone call here at approximately 12:30
yes.
on 224. Did she call you again while you were en route to her residence?
She did. She called to find out if I was still going to be coming over.
And when you spoke with her while you were en route, what, if anything, did you advise her?
I told her she needed to call 911 and told her I was on my way, but she needed to get somebody over there.
How long did it take you to arrive at her residence?
From the first phone call, or?
Yes, from the first phone.
Well, I mean, I live a minute or two drive away, but I had to get my puppy. We had just gotten a puppy recently. I had to get him in his crate and stuff like that and put something on because I was working from home. And total time, maybe 10 minutes. George was dead. And once again, I don't remember if she told me now or before that they had been playing hide and seek and she fell asleep. But I, at that time, told her again she needed to get 911 called to get somebody over there.
Has she called 911 at this point?
No, she had not.
So you've advised her now 3 times to call 911?
Yes.
That's so sketchy. If you truly care about a person, you're calling 911 immediately, within seconds of seeing them. And if you're not worried about what you did, and if you're gonna get in trouble for it, you call your ex-husband?
I walked in the front door into the little tiled area, entranceway thing. Looking into the living room, I could see the end of his feet and maybe a little bit of some legs that were kind of coming out around the backside of the kitchen area. Sarah told me she was going to call 911 and go outside and have a cigarette and a drink and asked me to come out there with her, and I told her that I didn't really feel comfortable being inside, and I went out front and got in my car and waited for people to show up.
Defense no cross on the husband. So it's probably a responding officer right here. So this is her body cam. So throughout this body cam, Sarah's just saying that she didn't mean to do it. They're playing hide and seek and she fell asleep. The audio's gonna be bad, so that's why I'm telling you. She forgot he was in the suitcase. I need a drink. She keeps begging for a drink because she has cotton mouth.
Yes, for 3.5 years. What happened? We had bottle of wine last night. So then we decided to play hide and seek, right? Okay. So he gets in the suitcase.
We were playing hide and seek and he hid in the suitcase.
So I came downstairs and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. That's what I found him. I took him out. I tried to get and then I called him and then I called you guys. Did he get here before the fire department got here? Who? Your husband? Or ex-husband? Okay. Where'd you at? Right on the street. Okay. Did you come up there? I did. But then I fell asleep. Okay, okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. I fell asleep. So I don't know if he's some kid or like having an aneurysm or a heart attack or what. Medical conditions did you have? None that I know of. None that I know of. None that I know of. No. All we have is a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine. Okay. Doing artwork. Then we decided to play hide and seek.
Oh, Jesus, they're showing the dead body on accident. Fucking Christ. I mean, she's not crying at all. Her boyfriend of 3.5 years is dead in her living room after she put him in a suitcase, and she's not crying at all.
I fell asleep. Forgetting that he was in the suitcase. Playing the hide and seek. Yes. And at some point you put him in the suitcase? No, he got in the suitcase. So he thought it was fine to be put in the suitcase. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to joke with you and I'll do you and make him, squirt a little bit, whatever it is. And then I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
Where was the suitcase?
Right where it is.
Right down there?
Yes.
You did come in there?
Yes.
You finally
It was. We both were laughing about it. And then I'm still asleep.
Where did you fall asleep at?
Upstairs. Air was coming out and he was gurgling, but...
He was gurgling, so that's normal with dead bodies. They make sounds sometimes, even when they've been dead. So there's another body cam. There's a detective right here on the left.
Intentional. Like...
Not intentional, she just said. She's scared for her life right now. She thinks his family's gonna find out he's dead and come fucking kill her. Only thinking about herself so far. No tears, nothing. Forensic biologist right here.
We go into the scene and just observe. We don't interact with anything and discuss what we see.
When you walked this scene, did you see George Torres?
Yes, I did.
And where was he located?
He was located on the floor in the living room of the apartment.
So there's wine bottles right here.
As well?
Yes. 3 Publix receipts that were removed from the trash can.
Did you take these items and collect them into evidence in this case?
Yes, I did. This photograph was taken in the living room. You can see the stairs leading to the second floor. Photograph of one of the zippers on the suitcase. This is a close-up picture of that same zipper. There is no zipper pull on it. It appeared to be a small wire of some sort, the pink wrapped around the zipper. This is the zipper on the other side of the suitcase.
Bro, that is not that big of a suitcase. Holy shit. Bro, that is so small. It's like the size in between a carry-on and the really big one. It's the middle size.
In your report, did you advise the medical or whomever might read your report that in fact the body had been removed from the suitcase by first offenders or first responders?
No, I don't believe so.
And we know that you have capacity to do DNA analysis, correct?
No, we process DNA or collect swabs for DNA, and then that's submitted to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for conventional DNA analysis.
Who made the decision not to bother to do a DNA analysis on the blood from the items within the suitcase or the suitcase itself?
That was a discussion between the detective and I.
And you chose not to do that?
No, we did not.
You assumed the blood inside the suitcase belonged to George Torres, correct?
There was blood observed in the suitcase.
But you don't know who that belonged to because you didn't bother to analyze it or have it analyzed, correct?
The blood was not tested.
Trying to poke holes in the investigation. They didn't test the blood inside, but not really anyone else's blood it could possibly be, but, you know, trying to do something. This case is kind of hard to fight.
We chose to collect the bat and put it into evidence.
So there was a fiber analysis done on the bat to determine whether or not it was used to strike George Torres when he was in the suitcase, was there not?
Pardon?
In fact, there was not, was it? There was no effort to analyze the bat.
I'm going to object. I don't believe the witness had an opportunity to answer the question.
Yeah, he didn't even let her answer. He cut her off.
Do you know that there was any effort made in this particular investigation, the investigation of Sarah Boone, to analyze the bat for fibers?
No, there was not.
And why was that not done?
It was not done.
You indicated that you had some interaction with Ms. Boone, is that correct?
I collected her buccal swabs.
Did you speak with her?
In collecting her buccal swabs, yes. Just that it was difficult without the zipper pulls to use the zipper.
And that was your opinion?
Yes, from opening the suitcase here today.
Today? You only tested it today?
Pardon?
You only today have for the first time tested the ability to pull open the zipper on the suitcase?
No, I'm saying it was difficult today.
Was the victim, did he have blood on his mouth and on his face?
Yes, he did.
Did he have open wounds on his body?
There was blood coming from his nose and his mouth. There was also some other areas of like defects noted on his body.
Did you note any other wounds or cuts or anything else that was not documented that you haven't testified to?
No.
So no wounds, nothing on her?
Not that I recall, no.
So the blood wouldn't be from her, is what they're trying to get across. So they're acting like it could be her blood in there. Come on, bro. That's pretty much it for day 1. State already kind of proved their case. They could rest their case right now. The video that they're going to show of the interrogation and her slurring and everything, after that, they kind of proved their case. But, you know, hit subscribe to the membership. Love you guys. Peace out.